And I'm going to take just a minute to get into the newer, more advanced system because I know City of Lynchburg is using some of these now. And the way this one works, takes about 5 seconds to boot up. We got a couple of codes here because we don't have it on a truck. But you have a red button in the upper left-hand corner, and this is a touch screen. This is just like your cell phone. This is a touch screen just like your cell phone is. Kind of turn it up, there you go, that better? All right, don't want to glare on anybody. But the red button here turns the system on. Right now I'm in what we call winter mode. And in winter mode, I have my plow functions up here at the top. You see where the yellow buttons are in a circle. That's my plow functions up at the top. Across the middle is where I have my spreader functions. And then also another thing we have features on, it depends on whether or not your trucks are outfitted with it. We can put video cameras on this as well and stuff like that. Backup cameras, side view cameras, in-bed cameras. I mean, we could do all kinds of stuff to this particular screen here. And I'll show you a little bit more detail to the technicians a little later on. But right now we're in the what we call the winter mode. So each time I press this button, it's waiting for my finger to press the button, and you'll notice it turns from yellow to green. That lets me know, hey, we've got contact going on here and we're operating this hydraulic function. So that's an indication from your end of it, hey, we know we're making contact. We know our finger's doing its job because the button just turned a different color here. And so that's how we know we got an interaction. Now, that being said, I do want to clarify something, is that it does take your finger, your bare finger, to press one of these. It's not a film that you're touching or whatever. A lot of people don't realize this, and it's hard for me to explain because it's beyond my knowledge. But every human body generates minute amounts of electricity. And that's what this thing is waiting for. You can't take a stylus from an iPad or something like that and you can't make this thing work. It's not going to work. It's waiting for the touch of your finger. You can't accidentally operate this thing any other way. Now, could I put my elbow on here and do the same thing? Yes, I could. Anywhere on my body that I touch this screen, I could operate this thing. But it is waiting for a human touch to be able to operate this thing. So keep that in mind. Now, somebody says, well, man, it's cold outside. I want to wear my gloves. Well, if you want to wear gloves, that's fine. They make special gloves, and you've probably seen them with a special tip in the end of it that is conductive. It's fine to wear gloves. Just make sure you got the right kind, that the electricity will go from your finger through the glove into the screen here. They do make those. Or worst case, the worst thing you can do is just snip the very tip end of the glove out, the finger out of the glove. The very tip end of it is all you got to do. We are waiting on a human interaction to operate these functions, so there's no accidental operation here. It takes skin touch to make this thing work. So just be aware of that. And we do that for safety's sake. That's the main reason we do that, is for safety's sake. So like I said, right here we're in the winter screen. We can turn our pre-wet off. When our pre-wet off, it disappears from the screen, so I can't operate it. Now, here's some of the redundancies or the safeties that we put into this stuff. You would never operate a pre-wet without operating the spreader. So if I reach over here and turn the spreader off, the pre-wet automatically goes off. Notice how much blank screen I got here? All that stuff had to do with the spreader. When I turn the spreader off, it disappears from the screen. I can't use it. It's gone. So there's no accidental operation there. Touching a button again turns everything back on and we're good to go. So it's a very simple operation. We're trying to keep the interaction of this screen very simple and not make it complicated. From a technician side, there is so much stuff that can be programmed on one of these things, it will blow your mind. And before we finish up today, there's some new neat things that I want to show you and tell you about with this. Some of it I wish I could tell you, but I can't. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give everybody just a little taste of it before we finish with the operators. I'll give you just a little taste of the direction that we're going with some of these things. Whether you're interested in it or not, that's fine. But at least I want you to see some of the directions that we're going. So far, everybody thought it was fairly neat. All right, so we're in a winter mode here. Notice there's no dump body functions. There's no tarp functions here. They're gone. We don't need those right now, so they're not on the screen. So then, in this case, we've got a brine tank. You know, you may have this 1,000-gallon brine tank with 3 booms on it and stuff like that. We can drive those too. We've got the booms up here at the top. We can tell how many gallons per mile we're spreading out and be able to turn that up and down based on whatever the need is to dispense that material. So we can turn all that stuff on and off at will. But you notice there's nothing else on the screen. We don't need a plow. We don't need a spreader. We don't need a dump body. All we need is a brine. All we need is the anti-ice brine tank. That's the only thing that's on that screen. There's no accidental operation. Then we press this button again and we go into summer mode. In summer mode, we've got body up, we've got body down, we've got tarp cover, and we've got tarp uncover. And it's just that simple. In the summertime, we don't need plow, we don't need spreader, we don't need brine tank. All those are gone. For safety's sake, they disappeared from the screen. So what we're doing is we're targeting the screen for the operations that you're doing at that particular time. So in the summertime, your screen's gonna be very simple here. Now, if you need some other things on the screen, we can put them on there. That's no problem. You see, we got plenty of room to grow if you need other options. And believe it or not, we're learning a lot from you guys. This thing is still under development. We're not even close to being finished with development of this thing yet. We're getting new and better ideas all the time of some of the features that we can put in here. And listening to our customers and being in meetings such as this right here is where we learn some of these great ideas that we can go back and put them to use. But in the summertime, all you need is tarp cover and uncover and dump up and down, and that's about all you need. So now we scroll back around to the winter screen again, and it just scrolls around. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Winter, brine, summer, winter, brine, summer. Just keep scrolling around. Now, somebody says, well, you know, if we wanted a supervisor level to lock this screen in place, can we do that? Yes, we can. This just happens to be set up for the City of Charlotte. City of Charlotte has more of these trucks than anyone else at this point. And they wanted to be able to have the operator to be able to scroll between these screens here. They wanted him to have that ability. But if we have a customer that says, well, I want the supervisor to have that ability, we will password protect that so that you're only working in the screen the supervisor authorized you to work in. I don't know of anybody that has done that at this point, but we have the ability to do that. Now, there's a whole lot of password protection on this particular system too, and you technicians will know what I'm talking about later on. But there's a lot of things that this thing can do. But from an operator standpoint, you just saw how simple it was. We're trying to keep it simple. Now, the mounting of this inside the cab, it mounts just like this one does on an arm mounted to the seat. So this one is mounted to the seat as well. So as you're riding down the road, gliding in your air ride seat, this is gliding with you. So you're not losing your line of sight, and it's a whole lot easier to reach out there. If you're bouncing up and down at a certain rate, it's a whole lot easier to reach out there and touch this thing if it's bouncing up and down at the same rate. And so that's the basics of it. Now, what can the operator do? Other than the controls here, what else can the operator do? We go to menu here. The operator has control of things that are in green up here at the top. Notice there's a whole lot of red down here. There's a lot of red. All that stuff is password protected. You got to have the password to get in there, whether it's a supervisor, technician, whatever the case may be. It's all password protected. The operator has the ability to operate what's in green. And in this case, what's in green is to be able to dim it for night. If this thing's glaring too bright, you can dim this thing down at night if it's glaring you in the face. Also, over here to the side, we have totals for that particular storm. Let's say we had a snowstorm today and we spread some salt. We can radio in at the end of our shift, and let's say Greg, wants to know, how many tons and how many miles and all have you traveled with this truck. You can radio this stuff in and say, well, I put out X number of tons, I've gone X number of miles, and I've operated the spreader X number of hours. And so that's all good information for the city to be able to keep up with the amount of salt they use and stuff like that. Now, here's the other part. This is something operators need to be aware of, because this is where you can get in trouble if you don't operate it right. We also have a block down here for the blast button. How many tons, how many miles, how many hours I've ridden down the highway with the blast button. So this is another place here. I'm just warning you, need to operate your truck correctly because this is a place that you can get ratted on. You can't erase this. Now, if you erase this, in this case, you do have the ability to erase this, but you know what? There's still a backup copy. That supervisor still has a backup copy. There's 2 copies of this of this page here. You may be able, let's say, and this is what happened. City of Charlotte wanted to be able to what we call hot seat a truck. If we've got a bad storm coming along, this guy might run 12 hours and then he jumps out of the truck, another guy gets in there and runs 12 hours, and they just keep running until the snow's gone or until they get the situation under control. So they basically hot seat a truck. And if they hot seat a truck like that, at the end of his shift, he calls all these numbers in, and then the next guy can zero this out and start his shift over and be able to collect the information for his shift. Now, the whole time in the background, all this stuff is being collected by the supervisor and you can't even see it. So these screens that are here, they're back there in the background. You need to be aware of that. They're there. You're not the only one that has access to this. You can zero it out if you're hot seating trucks and know each shift what's going on and what's doing. So just be aware of those things. All right, so really from a driver standpoint, those are the only three things that a driver has access to with this screen. We can password protect as much or as little as someone wants to go. What we found out, this is kind of a happy medium here. Now, like I said, when we go to the menu and all this stuff in red, this is technician level, this is supervisory level. So that's where a lot of this data and stuff is collected at. So that being said, any questions so far about this one? I got more to talk about, but any questions so far? Has this been relatively simple enough? That was the intent. This thing's got a lot of brains here, but we're trying to keep that interaction, the human interaction, as simple as we can, because we realize you've got a lot on your mind. You're trying to plow, you're trying to spread, the weather's bad, it's cold outside, other crazy fools are on the road that don't have no business on the road, and here you are out there trying to get your job done. You know, you got a lot on your mind. So we're trying to keep this interaction here as simple and to the point as we possibly can, to try to make your job a little bit easier and go a little bit more efficiently.